Hello, hello, and welcome back to Inconsequential Souls. So today, this is going to be post commentary, and the reason for that is I came to a point in the game where I had to fight Yorn the Giant, and yeah, I knew he was going to take a while, so I figured why not just make an entire episode of it and take care of some unfinished business. Right now, you see me just going after the Red Eye Orb because I decided to join Rosaria's Fingers. It's a number of reasons why. I guess I'll explain that a little bit later, but yeah, this is just me going through the motions to get the Red Eye Orb. And then after that, you should be seeing footage of me trying hundreds of times to try to kill Yorn the Giant until I finally figured out the trick to that boss. But anyhow, I figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of get an update about how I'm feeling about the game so far, what I enjoy, what I don't like, um, stuff like that. It's not gonna, again, this isn't gonna be a full review. I'll save that for when I actually complete the game because, I still feel like I have a lot of game left to play and a lot of things I still just don't know. So all I can do is just discuss what I know now and how I feel about the condition of the game right now. So, all right. So first, I want to talk about the invasion system. Um, Now, me personally, I was doing invasions on the side that I haven't recorded any footage for, and it was mostly because I just wanted to get a feel for how PvP worked and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I feel could be better, but for the most part, I think it's probably some of the fairest PvP I've played in a Souls game. Um, I don't tend to gravitate to overpowered weapons, so I usually have to go through the I would say the uphill battle of trying to figure out the potential for a less used or less popular weapon. So, um, okay, so for example, I'm using the dagger that you can get as early as High Tower Lothric, or probably even earlier than that if you just buy it from the Hag Merchant at Firelight Shrine, or the Handmaiden. Handmaiden. Um, and it seems as though there's a lot of assist items that work well with weapons like that, but I haven't had a chance to really use them because I haven't really been using the dagger. Well, I mean, I've been using a dagger, but not the one that I have on the assassin class that you've been watching for the past couple of episodes. So, um, as of now, I've just been using the bandit axe as far as PvP is concerned, and I really like the move set and how that weapon works. But mostly, I occasionally hear complaints about the invasion system where people will run into gank squads and stuff like that. And I've had my discussions with them where I disagree. It's mostly because, like, for the last couple of games, invaders have had like every advantage. Where I feel as though Dark Souls 2 struck probably the most healthy balance. It could still use some room for improvement, but for the most part, most of the stuff that screws you over is things that like players introduce into the game, and it has nothing really to do with the game itself. You know what I mean? Like them purposely like putting lag and stuff in there and trolling and stuff. So I kind of feel like Dark Souls 2 did it right in some senses, but um, again, as I've said in other videos, I feel as though the amount of creativity that you could bring to the table in Dark Souls 2 was very limited because of the poor level designs. um, and things like that. So I feel like in Dark Souls 3, that has kind of been addressed mostly, is that the PvP seems to be just as good as Dark Souls 2. A little bit more fair, um, a lot more lenient. Punishing people in Dark Souls 3 is really tough, especially if you don't just, try to go for an overpowered character. But then again, like a lot of the assist items seem to be very powerful. So once I get a chance to stretch my legs in PvP, I could probably give a more solid opinion. But so far, I kind of feel like all of the crying about how unfair it is on the invader and stuff, it's bogus. Like, I was using my assassin. I did about like 10 invasions, with quote unquote gank squads. And all he had to do was hit me once or twice, and I did pretty okay. I didn't win, mostly because my character is incomplete. Like, um, being a big red target and not really having legitimate stealth on your side is going to be a thing. So had I had the proper stealth that I needed, I probably would have won a lot more evasion. So I can already see the potential for good PvP as far as stealth classes are concerned. But then again, when I was using the bandit axe with one of my other characters that was doing a whole bunch of evading, like, I still had some great success where the straight swords are still really powerful, but I don't know, like, I was able to outplay a lot of people who are using that to their advantage, even if they tried to introduce lag into the game, and I still had some great success. And then ultimately, if you are invading, even if players try to use lag against you, the normal enemies don't care about them, doing that. So, like, it's sort of a double-edged sword now, because it's a wild, wild west setup, less of a controlled environment. So the chaos really helps balance things out, no matter what kind of situation you run into as an invader, in my opinion. So I'm not sure what all the tiers are about, but who knows? I still have a lot more games to play. Okay, so let's talk about building an assassin. So for a majority of the Let's Play, I kind of took you guys in not in a completely wrong path, but I kind of sat on the fence for a long time, and I didn't realize it. Like, I really thought that I was moving forward, but I was sitting on the fence because the decision I needed to make was if I wanted to be a pure intelligence mage who happened to use melee techniques, or if I wanted to be a pure melee mage. Oh, I'm sorry, not melee, but dex or strength or whatever mage, and then have magic assist spells. Now, this is typical ignorance. Like, I didn't know any better. Like, the typical mistakes you make in a video game when you don't know everything about everything. And I thought that was really cool because I feel as though if you do make mistakes with your character early, there are, like, for example, me joining Rosarda's Fingers. She's the mother of Rebirth. They introduce you to a point in the game where you can make healthy changes to your character before the difficulty level spikes way too high. And I kind of felt as though the Cleansing Chapel is that spike where you can get through that level, but it's not a steep enough spike to where, like, you're kind of locked out of making progress because everything's just too strong. So I could really see the tweaks that they've made to the adventure mode, or like the story mode, to where if you did make some huge mistakes, you can still fix it. And it's even a point where, with no spoilers, that you're kind of locked out of progressing into the parts where the spike goes super high. until you're sure that this is the type of character that you want to make. And they kind of make sure that, well, I mean, it's kind of a secret, but still, you have the option early enough to where, you don't have to suffer through your mistakes for that long. Um, but you will suffer through them. Like I'm a perfect example of that. But it's not going to be forever. So I really like that when I finally made the decision of what I really wanted to do with my character, I was able to make those changes. And what I ended up doing was being, well, not pure Dex, but a majority Dex, and I dumped enough into my magic portion so that I could use a lot of the passive spells that were helping me, get my stealth attacks and stuff in, which I should have been doing in the first place, but I didn't know any better. So, but yes, that's for the type of assassin that I'm making, and I can't say this is for assassin classes, period, but I really do believe that this is the prime example of an assassin class. Is meet the requirements to use your passive spells, because most of them allow me to get my critical attacks, and just focus on putting everything into making sure that you have enough focus points to use a lot of your spells. Be sure that you even out your Estus so that if you do have, that you're in it for the long haul, where a stage is very long, or levels like it takes a long stretch to get from point A to point B, that you have enough Estus to refill your focus points. And then lastly, you just want to make sure that you're doing enough damage. And one of the things that I did, and I had this item on me for quite some time, which was I think called the Lloyd Father's Ring or something like that. Anyhow, the way that the item works is as long as you're at full health, it increases your damage pretty significantly. And it went well with the assassin class because 9 times out of 10, I'm not getting hit. Even if it's from jumping from high ledges, like, fall control helped with that. Because I was mostly doing stealth, I didn't engage enemies in any type of combat. So I would usually see them first before they saw me. I wasn't using a lot of Estus, so it kind of naturally went with the character, even though I didn't see it at first, which was my mistake. But I feel as though that's the proper assassin class, and I'm not sure if you can make adjustments here and there with something else like maybe strength, but I haven't I haven't had experience with any strength weapons that I think would fit well with using magic quite yet. So I'm still looking, but to be fair, I was using the S stock, which was fairly balanced between strength and dex, favoring dex mostly, and I ended up having to make it sharp to get some kind of potential out of it. But there could be a more pure dex weapon that's similar to that, and I don't know if it exists yet. But for the most part, it's just like I find myself using my dagger a lot more, even though it doesn't have the sharp attribute on it anymore, because I was doing some experimenting with trying to make a pure intelligence assassin, and I haven't been able to find another sharp gem to replace it. But either way, the critical damage that I'm doing is enough to one-shot most enemies. So there you have it. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So my opinions on the game so far as like the adventure mode, the story mode, stuff like that. So the game has a lot of peaks and valleys, and obviously the good things that are good, anyone who's been watching Let's Play can see. The things that kind of that I don't like they're not so bad that it makes me not want to play anymore. It's mostly just irritating. Like it's sort of like why, why is this that way, but it's nothing so bad that it takes away from the game as a whole. To where, like I feel like, in Dark Souls 1, like some areas I felt like they just didn't have enough time and they just let the interns handle it. Like I don't really feel any of that in this game. It's sort of like even the things that are done well, I'm sorry, even the things that aren't done very well, they're still decent, to the point where it's reasonable. It's not like, oh my goodness, this is just so dumb, like I quit. Like I've had numerous moments in Dark Souls 1 and 2 where like I just wanted to quit because some of the stuff was just designed so poorly. But that's not really the case in Dark Souls 3. So I don't know, like the valleys aren't bad enough, to kind of have me critique the game as not being the best in the series. But the core thing is that the peaks, though, when the game gets really good, when the game gets good, it gets really good, and that kind of compensates for those little valleys that you had when you experience the game. And it's just so strange how, and I didn't really notice this until I just started thinking about, how I feel about the game, that a lot of the areas just feel so unique. It's like, I know like some of the concepts are reused. Like one of the things I noticed were that the farmers from the undead settlement, they're kind of like a palette swap of another set of enemies that you find in Arrowthil Valley. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but those enemies are different enough to, and they're placed so well that it's like you almost don't notice. So that's an example of something that's just like, I don't know how I feel about that, but it's done well enough to where it doesn't kind of get in the way of you enjoying the game. So there's that. Yeah, but anyhow, yeah, it's never too bad. So I really enjoy how when the game's bad, it's not so bad that it turns you off. But when it's good, it's so good that it almost makes you forget about all the bad experiences that you've had. So that I really like. And there's always some trick to these bosses, which is kind of funny to me. It's sort of like Dark Souls 1, but it kind of feels more like a built-in mechanic rather than something that like the player just exploits, which is just something for now. I'm not sure if that'll change in the future when I discover like more things, but I don't know, some of them feel pretty set in stone where you're better off using the trick that's provided for you by the developers rather than doing something that you come up with yourself. Like especially in this Yorm the Giant fight, like I had no idea what was going on. I was like, oh man, like I have to break off his armor piece by piece or something, and then I'll get the bonus damage, or I don't know, because it's like I fought so many bosses that were like that, like the cursed Greatwood and the one priest, the dark priest guy, you have to keep hitting his hands until his bracelets break. So I wasn't sure what was going on with that, with me doing those little bits of damage, but I knew I was going to be in for the long haul, so I just said, whatever, I'll just keep fighting him until I win, and this will probably end up being like an hour-long video, so why not, just do a quick update on it in the form of a post commentary. Because I already knew that after a while, like I wasn't gonna have anything more to say fighting him the 50th time. So here we are. Okay, so plans for the future of the series, the DLC, any new content that I'll make, more ideas, all that. So, um, the DLC, I can't say I'm not looking forward to it. Um, I guess I am, but it's not really on my list of concerns just yet because there's so much about the standard game I just don't know yet. So I'm not one of the channels that's ready for the DLC already. That's probably going to take me some time dissecting just the core game because it seems so full. And yeah, another one of the things that kind of surprised me was that a lot of the items are really well hidden, and it's not that they're in some hidden wall or around some corner that you just didn't see, which is the case sometimes. It's mostly like, especially for like the assassin class that I'm playing. One of the things I found out is like a lot of the more difficult enemies drop rare, unique items, and I guess that's always kind of been a thing in Souls games, but it was never a thing where it was an item that was essential to like an assassin like me. But then again, the class wasn't really done well. Stealth classes weren't really done well in either of the previous two games. So it's sort of like this is a whole new experience, and I'm kind of having to step out of my comfort zone, which, I mean, I enjoy it, but at the same time, it's like the dying often and stuff isn't something that I'm used to. So it's an adjustment. I don't like the idea of getting killed by putting myself in situations I normally wouldn't put myself in. But this game really makes you want to explore, because you could miss something. And when I found that Dragon's Crest ring, I'm not sure exactly which one it was. I think the one that greatly boosts sorceries. When I found that, no, it wasn't the one that boosts sorceries. It was the one that makes them last longer. The lingering Dragon Crest ring. When I found that by killing a giant crab, I pretty much knew from that point on, like, I didn't know anything about this game, and if I wanted to build a true assassin, I really needed to know as much about it as possible. Like, for example, I didn't have it on, but I had a ring in my inventory that would have been useful like so many times, but because I had this tunnel vision that I knew what I needed to do and all that, I completely ignored the ring for a majority of the Let's Play that's posted at the moment, and it was to my own undoing. So I'm using it now, and things are much easier. And I'm thinking, like, what am I doing wrong? And the answer was, you're not using your equipment. And believe it or not, I really believed I was using everything that I had at my disposal, just to find out that yes, there is room for improvement for your attention to detail. So there you go. Like, this game's taught me so much about Dark Souls. Even though it's its own entity, like, this is what I was talking about. This is the type of game I've been waiting for. I'm actually learning something. It isn't just a by the numbers type thing. Like, I can get into why Souls games felt like that to me for a very long time, and I'm sure most people might disagree. But I've had the luxury of playing much better games. Not necessarily as Dark Souls 3, but I mean as the other previous Souls games. Like, I've played other immersive games that executed a lot of things much better. And I've said it before, but I'm not sure if I've said it on the channel. But one of the things that drew me to Dark Souls games was the player versus player aspect. That was never in any of the other games that I played in that way. Where you could kind of grief people and be a troll, and they had no choice. Usually, like if it was PvP or something, the other person had to agree to it. So because people had so much power on deciding whether or not they wanted to fight you, PvP was kind of limited because it would only be with people who, a lot of people just like winning. So it's like once they lose once or twice, it's just like, oh no, I don't want to fight anymore. But in Dark Souls, you're constantly being refreshed with new enemies and new situations. It had a really cool aspect to it because of the fact you can implement that RPG aspect in there where you're doing this PvP, but all of these different class types and playstyles are very viable. Which wasn't true until the second game, let's be honest. But Dark Souls 3 seems to be doing that and much more. So I'm all on board for what Dark Souls 3 is doing. So yeah, as far as the DLCs and stuff is concerned, I'm only wondering what they're going to add because I've only been doing kind of the stealth aspect, and I've had run-ins with other types of builds. So I am kind of curious of what it's like for clerics and mages and strength builds and pure dex builds and all that. Like, I haven't had that point of view yet, but I fought some of those people, and they seem pretty good. But I don't know, like the struggles of actually having to go through the game and doing PvP with those types of classes. So, excuse me, by the time I get to that, like the DLC will probably be out already, adding much more content. And sky might be the limit at that point, but I'm kind of still absorbing all of the stuff that is right in front of my face right now, and I'm not even sure if I know the half of what this game has to offer yet. So we'll just see. Alright, so the last and final thing that I want to talk about, and this is before I do my free thinking rant. I want to kind of keep this stuff in order, but I'll come back to some of the more unimportant details later when I have the time. But I do want to get these important points out of the way first. So the thief build, I'm not sure if I brought it up just yet. Maybe here and there throughout the Let's Play, but one of the things I was really looking forward to is doing a thief build and doing a lot of invasions, because the stealth mechanics in Dark Souls 3 are just that good. And as far as I can tell, and this was from me rewatching some of my videos, is that there's some kind of thief ring item in here, which is so good because for anyone who's been following my Dark Souls 3 discussion videos that I made on the channel a long time ago, you'll know that that was something that I was kind of interested in. I brought that up in a stealth, a discussion about stealth video. So that item's in there. That's really cool. I really want to play around with that. Then, at least from what I could tell, I've only been repulsed several times. But one, it looked like a really powerful repulse. And it looks like something equivalent to the Hornet's Ring seems to be present in Dark Souls 3. So that's definitely something that I want to get my hands on. And then I'm pretty sure that the Red Tear Stone Ring is going to be there, so then you can make yourself a nice little hyper build. And then there seems to be the opposite equivalent, where instead of having low health, you have full health, which would be the Lloyd items, which seems to be a nice alternative. So I like the idea that you have options now where you can be like, okay, well, I never get hit, so, and then I'd rather be safe, so I want to use the Lloyd stuff. Or you can be a person who's just like, oh, well, I'm more on the cleric side, and I have something like Second Chance or Denial, so I'm going to go more the Red Tear Stone route. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that the Red Tear Stone Ring gives you more bonuses, and I'm going to assume that it's much better than it was in Dark Souls 2. It's probably more along Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1 territory. Like, the way that PvP in the game is working at this moment. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Because everything seems way more balanced this time around and way more rewarding for when you take risks. So I'm pretty sure about that. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be super surprised, but I doubt that. It could be a thing, who knows? But yeah. So because these items seem to be a thing, I'm really excited to do my thief build. But before I do the thief build, I have to actually go through the game first, so I have a solid understanding of exactly what it is my thief is going to need to perform at its best. And it seems as though the item trading system is probably going to have to come into play a lot sooner than later. So what I might have to do is something like a speed run with another character to get all of the items that I want, and then do a whole trade, and then give the thief those items early on, so I can just focus on being the stealthy thief that I want, and then just putting the points where they belong as I progress. Because one of the things I found out is you can level up simply off just invading, especially if you don't join a covenant, because embers sell for like 1,000 a pop, so you can do like 90 something invasions, and all of your embers will just get stored into your storage container. And I believe you can hold up to like 600 of them, maybe more, a little bit less than that. But for 1,000 a pop, like, just do invasions all day, with the souls that you get for killing the hosts and their phantoms and all that. And then sometimes if a person, gets a blue sentinel or something in there who's been killing a lot of reds, get about anywhere 600, 700 souls, and then top that off with the 1,000, or farm certain areas and sell the items. Like, there's a bunch of ways to just level up staying in one area that you enjoy. So, I like that idea of not necessarily having to go through the entire game again to enjoy the game that you want. Whereas, that wasn't quite a thing in Dark Souls. In Dark Souls 2, like, in order to enjoy your build, you kind of had to go through the game a little bit, to unlock upgrade items and stuff like that. And still, some of the upgrade items were still locked off because, like, I remember the Tower of Prayer, what was it called? Like the loop that you would do to keep using bonfire ascetics in that one area was a good way to get a bunch of petrified dragon bone and twinkling titanite, which was something that was really tough to get a hold of in Dark Souls 2, at least from what I recall. It's just you had to go out of your way to upgrade a lot of stuff because it required a lot of materials. And then if you wanted to switch that out for something else, you had to basically do the whole same thing again rather than just buying it from a merchant. I'm not sure why they did that, but that's the way it was. I'm not sure if that's going to be a thing in Dark Souls 3. I highly doubt it. But if the thing is like, well, you can just trade the items, because it's mostly because of the password system. Like, the password system makes this stuff so much easier. So, you can just have a character that just has all the things, and then, just trade it with your other characters, and you can just focus on being the theme build or whatever that you want to be in whatever area, and just enjoy the game the way that you want to enjoy it. So, okay, so about this thief, so there's the Lloyd's ring, which I'm more interested in than probably the Tear Stone. The Thief's ring, I'm not sure if that's what it's called, but I've seen it used by a NPC called Yellow Finger something. He looks a lot like Prince Jeremiah from King Jeremiah from Dark Souls 1. So he has something similar to that. And the Hornet's ring equivalent, and then mostly the Slumbering Dragon Crest ring, maybe. And those will probably be the things that I use for my thief character. The only thing, well, this is the funny thing. The thing that's cool about the Thief's Ring is that it makes being a Red Phantom less painful. Because one of the things I didn't like was how stealth kind of gets overshadowed by the fact that you're this bright red target. So something like hidden body and all that doesn't really serve you all that well unless you're a host. But then I also know that there's some kind of Ring of the Living equivalent. So I don't know. I guess you can kind of mix and match. Like I've never really, I don't know, been obsessed over not being a Red Phantom and stuff. Like it was very useful to not be one. In Dark Souls 2 because it made stealth a lot easier. But with all the tools in Dark Souls 3, not really necessary. Like I don't mind being a Red Phantom. Like as long as I master the range of how that thief ring works and I can execute my stealth in a meaningful and useful way, like that Ring of the Living equivalent may or may not be necessary. But as I was saying before in the stealth video that I made a long time ago, now that you have options, you see, this is the cool part. Now that you have options on how it is that you execute stealth, you can always be coming up with new stuff, new builds, new strategies. And at least from what I've seen, it seems as though they've taken that to heart. And this is just with the stealth portion. I'm not even sure what other players who use different build types are experimenting with. Like, I guess to kind of go off the rail a little bit, there's these gems that give you focus points back for every attack that you do. So you have the option of like maybe like a cleric who may use a lot of focus points to keep refreshing their health. You know, they can keep doing that because they're always going to have focus points. So, you know, this is just some ideas that, you know, I was thinking to myself, like, wow, like there's a lot you can do in this Dark Souls game, you know, as far as just character development, but this is just the base game. Like, we're not even talking about DLC yet. So, like, that's why I said, you know what? I'm going to stick to one aspect and let everybody else handle all the other stuff. I'll get to that later. Hopefully, the community will build a competent meta for those types of playstyles. But if I have to come in and do it, it's totally fine. But I probably won't get to it for a while. So hopefully someone else fills those shoes, because filling these stealth shoes right now, like that's a job within a job. So, but yes, okay, so to go on this evasion thing a little bit, because I'm kind of excited about the Steve character, is one of the things I like is how you don't have to depend on health, building up your health so much in this game, because if you build a character around not getting hit, you don't have to worry about getting hit. Like, as long as your enemies don't see you coming, like, there's no point in wasting points on health. Like, you're not gonna get hit. So, like, that was never a thing in Dark Souls 1 or 2. Like, okay, so to be fair, it kind of was in Dark Souls 1. The thing that I didn't like, though, was that there were too many times when there were just enemies who you had to deal with. Like, whether you like it or not, and stealth wasn't going to help you because you simply weren't going to do enough damage. And then if you did set yourself up so that you could, if you were to get invaded, none of that stuff would help you with the invader. What I'm liking in Dark Souls 3 is that anything that works against the NPC enemies, or the enemy AIs that you fight against, usually works the same, if not better, against actual players. So for example, I might be fighting a red phantom, and a lot of the stuff that I do kind of works, but as long as it kind of works, against a real player, it would actually probably work better. I like that being a thing rather than it being the opposite, where something works really well against your enemies and the NPC AI enemies, but then when it comes to players, it just doesn't work at all. Like, I thought that was so dumb, and they kind of fixed that for me in Dark Souls 3. So the reason I'm excited to build this thief is because I'm seeing all of these items that are gonna make playing as a thief really fun this time around, but I have to find out actually how to get those things, and it's one of the things that I'm excited for, because it's just like, as far as I've come in the Let's Play, I'm not sure exactly what episode this one is. I'm in like maybe the 40s or 50s now, but I'm that far and I still haven't found a lot of stuff. Like, I was really surprised that the Slumbering Dragon Crest ring was something that you had to get from a mage character by completing a bunch of quests. Now, it makes sense, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, because I feel as though that makes a lot more sense than how other things did in previous Souls games. My thing is that finding out that, oh, well, if I make this thief character, I gotta buy all of these spells that I don't really want. You know, you don't have to, because like I said, the trading system is the thing, but had I not just said, hey, let's just buy all of this stuff, I wouldn't have known. And luckily for me, I was playing an assassin class, and it kind of played into the idea that, you know, that item is from Vinheim. So if you want a secret Vinheim item that not a whole lot of people know about, you kind of got to build trust up with somebody who's either a Vinheim mage or they know a lot about sorcery and stuff. So I don't know, like, it's just, it kind of blew me away. Like, I know it probably shouldn't have been so shocking, but to think that the thing between me and not using up a lot of focus points to sneak around was the fact that I was being a Scrooge and not buying enough spells from the sorcerer. Like, it just kind of like, oh my goodness, like, it just showed me just how much I don't know about Dark Souls 3. So there's that. But anyhow, this has been Inconsequential Souls, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. And it's just gonna be me handling some unfinished business, but hopefully I'll get that thief character together and maybe do a little bit of do a little bit of invasions and kind of show some of showcase some of that stuff. But for now, I'll try to get through this Let's Play a little bit quicker now that, you know, my character's actually built a little bit better. So thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of the video, and I hope to see you next time.
Welcome home, Ashen One. Very well, then touch the take nourishment. Let these souls withdrawn from their vessels, manifestations of elucidated by fire, burrow deep, retreating to a darkness beyond the reach of flame. Let soon a new master, inhabiting ash, casting themselves upon farewell, that may the flame. Welcome, her speak. Very well, then take no. Let these souls withdraw.
art thou returned, and a fine day it is. So, happened upon any twisted souls?
Back again, I see. Perfect timing. I don't mean to see an exchange in the form, I hope. Come again. Oh. Oh my. You've made quite the discovery. This is a scroll of the prodigious Big Hat Logan, a masterful sorcerer, long missed in Vinheim. And now we have his scroll, right here in my very hands. I don't mean to seem overbearing, but have you in exchange the form, I hope? Come again. Oh. Come again. Oh, that would be quite like you. I don't mean anything, I hope. How do you like gimmicks, friend? This is a sign, a cipher, employed by sorcerers who use quietude to their advantage. With this, you can be sure to tell friend from foe from your very first encounter. It's a very old practice at this point, but one that you deserve to know. I don't mean anything, if I hope you... Promise to stay safe.